an airline that's hoping to script a revival story for itself. Joining us now is the man at the helm of the affairs, Mr. Ajay Singh of SpiceJet. Appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Let me start by asking you if you can continue to sustain what we've seen you deliver in the first quarter. And I ask you that because of several reasons. One, of course, the load factors, which are significantly high, in fact, the highest that you've ever seen. Will this be sustainable given the fact that at this point in time capacity continues to be constrained, even though you intend to up capacity by about 16% in this month? And also, seasonally, it is a good quarter because that's when the travel season actually happens and you've had the advantage of low oil prices. Is this kind of performance sustainable?
Well, as you know, SpiceJet has achieved occupancy factors of in excess of 92% the last 5 months. And that's been part of a deliberate strategy. This airline had shut down in December. And from there, it was important for us to start to revive consumer confidence. And we've done that in a variety of ways. The fact that occupancy factors have been so high reflects the fact that consumer confidence is actually coming back into the airline. Going forward, we are very confident that we'll be able to sustain high occupancy. It's difficult to say exactly what those numbers would be, and the strategies will keep changing from, at different points of time. But what we have achieved, and the reason that we've been successful, is that as oil prices have come down, and as a consequence of oil prices coming down, the tariffs have come down, the airfares have come down, our occupancy factors have ensured that our total revenues remain the same. We've also focused on ancillary revenue and increased that, pretty dramatically over the last few months. And as a consequence of this, even as costs are lower, the revenues have sustained, and therefore we've been profitable. This, of course, Q2 is the weakest quarter of the year. And while we are in silent period and can't talk of our results, the fact is that it's clear from our occupancy numbers which are published that we will do significantly better than we did in the same quarter last year. And as you've said, we are coming into a strong quarter, which is a festive quarter, and we expect to do very well.
I'll get to your strategy going forward in just a bit, but let me ask you now in terms of bringing an investor on board, because that continues to be something that you are grappling with. Is this the right time to bring a financial investor on board? Where do current conversations with potential investors stand? Or are you in fact waiting for the Indigo IPO to be out of the way? Because the question is whether that will in fact re-rate the sector and perhaps be better news for players like yourself.
Firstly, I don't think investments are a challenge at all at this point in SpiceJet. SpiceJet is a profitable airline. SpiceJet has shown 2 quarters of profitability. The prospects going forward look very good. There are no cash flow issues at all in the company at this time.
So working capital is not an issue, despite what the rumors seem to suggest at this point in time?
Not in the least bit, and that's clear from our numbers. From our perspective, the company doesn't need too much cash at this time. Cash will really be needed when we place large orders for aircraft, which we fully intend to do, in the future. So at that time, you're absolutely right. We expect that the Indigo IPO will be out later this month. That will re-rate the sector. There's very little reason why Indigo would be worth, would be valued at 25,000 crores, and SpiceJet would continue to be valued at under 2,000 crores. We expect that there will be a re-rating.
So the hope and the wait is in order for you to get a better valuation, because you believe the desperate times are behind you.
No, absolutely. There is no desperation. I think SpiceJet is on a very strong wicket right now. With growth, expected to pick up in the Indian aviation sector, and with SpiceJet settling down pretty nicely into the space, with high occupancy factors, with the continually lowering cost regime, we think that we have a great future ahead, and therefore we will take money when we need it. There's no reason to take money when we don't need it.
So at this point in time, you're saying that you're not necessarily in need of money, and hence potential conversations with potential investors perhaps on the back burner, or do the conversations continue? And would the preferred route really be talking to a foreign airline, or would you be looking at a clutch of investors?
Well, as SpiceJet has started to do better, we've been approached by both airlines and financial investors, and we continue to speak with them and keep up a dialogue with them. But clearly, investments into SpiceJet will happen when it works, in the interest of of SpiceJet, the company itself, and its shareholders.
Okay, let me ask you about expansion plans, because on Friday you put out your network expansion plans with 6 new aircraft that you're bringing in, 291 daily flights, 10 new sectors, 30 increased frequencies. You were talking about the need of the money when you actually place those large orders. The speculation is that 100 new aircraft is what SpiceJet will look for as far as the future is concerned. But what about the 42 that have already been ordered? When do we start seeing deliveries coming in?
The deliveries for those are expected, they start at end of 2017. Those are actually 55 planes. They are all, the Spice Max orders. And we expect to supplement those orders so that, we have orders going for the next 10 years. So the orders that we place now could be in excess of the number you just suggested.
Could be in excess of 100?
Yes.
How soon do you intend to make that?
So we expect to place that order hopefully in this financial year. And we are in conversation with the aircraft manufacturers. We are also looking to see what we can do on the regional side, where we have Bombardier aircraft currently. And we are trying to see if there can be an expansion of the regional network as well.
When do you intend to take that decision as far as the regional route is concerned? Because that could perhaps work out to be a profitable sort of operation for you.
Well, at this time, both operations are profitable. The big aircraft, the larger aircraft operation is profitable, as is the regional aircraft operation. We expect that a lot of the growth in India will come from tier 2, tier 3 markets, and there is clearly space for a regional play. We are the largest regional player in the country at this time, and therefore, we are continuously evaluating if we need to expand that network as well.
Okay, but in terms of efficiencies, because as you said, that has been a clear area of focus as well ever since that you took over. So in terms of debt reduction, we've actually seen your debt reduced to about 1,120 crores in FY15. Your borrowing costs have gone down as well. What more can we expect on both those parameters?
We continue to work on debt reduction, and we expect that over the next 12 months, you will see a significant reduction. We started at 22.
Can you quantify significant?
It's tough to say right now, but we started with 2,200 crores. We are at 1,100 crores already in the space of the last 8 months. We will continue to work on this, and we expect that there will be significant reduction.
Okay. In this financial year, given where you currently stand today in terms of your debt position, how much more, if you can give us a little more of a sort of quantifiable aspiration about debt reduction in this particular financial year?
I don't want to give guidance, because that will basically be giving guidance on profits in the next 2 quarters. I prefer not to do that, but we expect the performance to be very strong, and we expect that there will be significant debt reduction.
What do you think went wrong with SpiceJet? Why did it get to the position that it did get to before you could actually chart out this revival path for it?
One issue was probably inexperience. I think the previous ownership had no previous experience of aviation. For a period of time, there seemed to have been, severe dilution of fares, and it seemed that the airline was chasing market share, and market share in aviation tends not to be as sticky, and you can lower fares and get market share, but the moment you raise them, the market share goes away.
So that kind of aggressive discounting strategy, that's no longer part of the SpiceJet DNA?
Absolutely not.
So the no 1 rupee fares and so on and so forth?
When you do that, those are mostly marketing tactics. They have a role to play. Market stimulation always has a role to play. It brings about a modal shift from rail to air, and therefore it's useful. SpiceJet will not, on a continuing basis, dilute the yields to get market share.
Okay.
Ultimately, it's about, the airline needs to be profitable and the revenues need to be sustained.
So a very conscious focus on the bottom line.
Absolutely. Okay. Very much.
Time for us to take a break, but when we return, we continue to talk about SpiceJet's revival strategy with Ajay Singh. Let me ask you about where things currently stand with the government and this back and forth on whether we will see regulation of fares or not. There's been several rounds of meetings that have been held by the industry with the Civil Aviation Ministry. It's almost a carrot and stick sort of approach, whether, if you don't comply, then we're going to wield the stick and get you to regulate fares. Where do things currently stand? Do you believe that we will continue to see a more hands-off approach, or do you believe that this is political rhetoric and, it's going to pass?
I think, we have heard similar, objections for years. For years. I mean, what happens is that every time you get into peak season, the fares go up, and then people will protest high fares. But when it comes to the weaker seasons, the fares are really low, and then you don't find people really protesting. So I think that government needs to take a hands-off approach, because the moment you start to cap fares, you also need to cap the bottom. I mean, so you need to raise the floor, and when you raise the floor, you stop people coming into this whole space. So this whole shift that we are bringing about from trains to planes will stop. These new customers and this growth in the segment, all this is going to come to a halt the moment.
So are they buying your argument?
So we made the argument to them, and it's for them to to decide what they want to do. Having said that, there are certain circumstances in which, of course, being political people, they will get complaints to say that, look, last-minute fares were obnoxiously high, or that, there was a medical emergency, and even then the fares were obnoxiously high, and so on and so forth. And it's not completely unjustified to say that these fares can be extremely high sometimes, and perhaps inordinately so. And so airlines will need to take a responsible position on that as well. But largely, I think experiments to try and regulate fares have not worked very well, and we don't expect that they will work in this market as well.
Since we are talking about regulations, and there continues to be the debate on 5x20, whether 5x20 will stay, whether it will come back in some Frankensteinian form of linking international flying rights to domestic credits and so on and so forth. Let me put the argument to you that is being made by the new carriers, the likes of AirAsia and Vistara. The argument is that you allow the Indian aviation market to open up, do away with 5x20, because anyway at this point in time 70% of your inbound and outbound traffic is being carried by foreign airlines. So if anything, you're only going to benefit foreign aviation and foreign international hubs as opposed to the Indian aviation sector. So 5x20, their argument, is actually constraining Indian industry in Indian aviation. How do you respond to that?
There are some problems in terms of, firstly, if you create a level playing field for all players, it probably works. The question really is that, airlines that you mentioned, they've used a formula by which they've become Indian carriers. And our thought really is that, are they really? Okay,
because you're saying it's Indian ownership. It's Indian ownership, they may not necessarily be Indian carriers in that sense.
They may not be. And will their countries, and will those, the countries where they come from, will they give us the same, exactly the same formulation if we decide to go and form airlines? I mean, today if I was to go and make an airline in let's say in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, will they let me do it? So Indian carriers today, India is a strong country, India has fantastic potential. They need to give me the same level playing field that they expect in our country. And so, as I said, it's tough to confine it to just that one 520 rule. The overall policy must encourage Indian aviation, Indian players in Indian aviation, as well as infrastructure in terms of MROs, in terms of training facilities, in terms of being the service center of the world.
So how would you classify an Indian airline? Because I mean, Vistara and AirAsia also have majority Indian ownership at this point in time.
I think the thought at that time was that Indian airlines would be controlled and managed by Indians, right? And that would be that would be an Indian airline. So
they're all Indian, right? You're all Indian.
Yeah, true. But if you look at them, are you genuinely saying that AirAsia is today an Indian carrier?
It's not for me to say, it's for the regulator to say.
It's for the regulator to say.
And it's for the aviation ministry that's granted them the approval and the license.
Of course. So from our perspective, some of those carriers are actually continue to be controlled by their parent. And their parent is sitting outside of India. Now, in those circumstances, we feel that there needs to be a level playing field for all players, for the Indian market as well as for the markets overseas. So we need to find that balance.
So basically you're saying that 5x20, unless and until other changes are made, a holistic approach is taken to promote Indian aviation, at this point in time it should stay.
Yes, there needs to be a holistic approach to an aviation policy which encourages India to become an aviation superpower.
So let's talk about the growth forward, and you're clearly betting on that as well with the kind of aircraft orders. We've seen what Indigo is looking at as well in terms of placing aircraft order and so on and so forth. CAPA has put out a report very recently talking about the economic value add to India if the aviation market was to be unshackled. IATA has got all kinds of numbers in terms of the potential growth from here to 2030 and so on and so forth. Unless and until there is a significant shift as far as the way the government approaches this sector, are all of these forecasts going to remain on paper?
I think it's true that there needs to be a change of mindset. We have to stop treating aviation as a good for the rich. I think the mindset still is that, much as they used to tax color televisions in the past and computers in the past because those were supposed to be goods for the rich, they continue to tax aviation. And aviation is about connectivity, it's about growth and growth in tourism and growth in the economy and so on and so forth. It is very much a middle class mode of travel today. So I think that mindsets have to change. Taxation has to be moderated.
Besides tax, and of course that continues to be the #1 bugbear as far as the aviation sector is concerned, to be able to bring down tax significantly. We've had this conversation going on for months now, years in fact, on ATF and whether states will actually move as far as ATF is concerned. We haven't seen much progress on any of those fronts. Do you really feel confident that we are going to see some sort of rationalization as far as taxes is concerned, given the fact that the government has its own fiscal priorities to balance as well?
Well, but how much money are we talking about?
Yes.
All of ATF today, that the states collect is about 3,000 crores. And there is going to be, competition between the states. The states which have reduced taxes have seen that they're,
West Bengal, for instance.
So for example, Andhra Pradesh, they've seen that, Hyderabad has become a major aviation hub. So I think states will see the advantages, but there is also politics. So the states themselves are a little concerned that if they give concessions for aviation, will they be then thought to be pro-rich? So that's an issue that they have to grapple with. In addition to just ATF and taxation on ATF, today we are in a situation where we are forced to take our planes overseas for service. And that is as absurd as, for us to sit in Delhi and say, look, I can't service my car here and I need to take it to Lahore to get it serviced because the tax here is so high. And these are things which can potentially create a lot of jobs.
What is the aspiration in terms of both market share as well as profitability?
We have no aspirations for market share really. I think for this year it's much more about being financially sustainable, bringing down the costs that you referred to, and ensuring that our revenues remain consistent and that we are able to keep increasing both our passenger and our ancillary revenue. So there are some growth targets.
That's the second time or the third time, sorry to interrupt, you spoke about the ancillary revenue. If you can get some color about the kind of growth that you envisage as far as the ancillary business is concerned.
Well, we've nearly tripled the revenues that we get from ancillary sources, which includes our cargo revenue, our seat selections, our meals, all sorts of other add-ons that we sell along with the ticket itself. Those revenues since I took over have nearly tripled. We still think that there is room to grow in that space, and we will continue to work on that.
What kind of number would we be talking about on the ancillary revenue side?
Well, at this time we are in excess of 15% of our revenue is ancillary revenue.
Okay.
We expect to take that up to 20%.
Okay. Since we were talking about your fleet again, I just wanted to check, because this is something that keeps going back and forth also, on phasing out of the Q400, for instance. Is that on the cards? Is that something that you will look at, consider?
Well, at this time the regional operations are profitable, and going forward, government has made it clear that they will support much greater regional connectivity in the new policy. So we think that there is space there. We are the largest regional players at this time by a long margin, and therefore we feel that we should explore whether we can expand that operation rather than curtail it.
Our last conversation that we had when you spoke to us about the payment schedule once you took over the airline, and you had spoken about 1,500 crore rupees being pumped in. Where do things currently stand on that front, and are we likely to see the last tranche, I think, if my memory serves me right, being advanced further, or is that the entire amount likely to come in this financial year?
Well, at the time we started this process, we thought that there would be significantly larger amounts of money which would be required. Our estimate then was that we would require about 1,500 crores. As it turned out, the company did a lot better than we expected it. The airline did a lot better, became profitable far sooner than we expected it to. And as I said to you before, at this time there is no requirement for cash flow. Given that, and given the fact that we think that there is going to be significant re-rating of SpiceJet with the incoming IPO and the way the sector is doing at this time, we feel that we should time the investments right.
So how much have you brought in altogether?
So far, about 850 crores has come into the company.
Okay.
We find that that's more than enough
at this point.
And as we place new orders, there will be more funding into the company.
I interrupted you when you were articulating your growth targets, so let me not keep you from that.
No, in terms of the aircrafts, as I said, we will be placing significant orders both on the large and the small aircraft. The targets really remain much more profit oriented and much more cost oriented, much more revenue oriented than specific market share targets.
Well, Ajay Singh, we wish you the very best of luck as you script this revival plan for SpiceJet. Appreciate you speaking to us here on CNBC TV 18, and we hope that you will give us an update as and when the silent period is over on the aircraft order that you've just spoken to us about, and we get more color from you on those developments. But thank you very much for joining us on this special show.
Thank you so much.